For years, I really thought it was all about the food, but the real game changer in my healing has actually been fasting. In this chat with a friend, I'm diving into how long term intermittent fasting, tailored around my female cycle and MEM1, has brought more clarity, stability, and symptom relief than any specific diet I've ever followed. If you've ever wondered whether fasting could support your hormones, energy, or your healing, this behind the scenes take is for you.
I think that there is more benefits to be gained from fasting than eating the right diet. Not that I would try it, but some fasting experts are so committed to believing that fasting is the healer of all that they would say, as long as you fasted, you could eat whatever you wanted in your eating window. I use that around Christmas because I do want to eat mince pies, Christmas cake, that sort of thing. But I keep my eating window much shorter. I would say that's the other area where she really comes into her own, Mindy, because she's got the fasting cycle. Whereas for the first 5 years of my journey, I was fasting 16/8 every single day. I found Mindy Pelts. It was an absolute revolution in my eyes. And it all makes so much sense. Seeing the way that she describes it, like leaning into the hormone feasting and then what she calls ketobiotic foods. Going forwards, what I'll do is lean further into fasting and use that really as my number one tool rather than making little tweaks with food.
The one thing that I've been getting some hit back with, which is what I wanted to ask you about, because I know you'll know all of this, is the ketones. When you go into a fast, your body uses the sugar and the fats, but then after it will run into ketones, won't it? Now, my Qigong teachers speak very highly of this. They call it the garbage truck people. They go around the body and start clearing up and healing all the bits that need healing, these little ketone bodies, beautiful little beings, they call them. But there's a lot of throwback I'm getting that to run on ketones is not good long term and can do a lot of damage. So I'm interested on your thoughts on ketones, and do you feel we can run on ketones quite a lot? We just spoke about when it comes to women's cycles that probably we need a bit of sweet potato or some nature's carbs to help with the progesterone build. But you spent pretty much 5 years, you said, doing 16/8, which means you would have been in ketone territory quite a lot, and that felt quite good to you.
I've not done any of the science myself, but I really believe that the body adjusts to whatever becomes normal for it. When I first started out on 16/8, yes, I was in ketosis. If I was doing that for 5 years or 6 years, would then I have needed a longer fasting period to have actually pushed my body into ketosis, or would it only have taken 16 hours? I do get skeptical of even Dr. Mindy stuff where, for example, she says definitely in the week before your period, don't fast for more than 15 hours. The reason she's saying that is because 16 hours is what all the research pulls back as being the entering of ketosis. I have to say, with me, I don't think it is. I think it takes me longer to get into ketosis.
17 hours.
Yeah, my favorite eating schedule is to eat once a day. That's what I'm doing today. And to fast for 22, 23 hours. That is when my body feels most happy. It's something that my doctor and I really do agree on. I follow my menstrual cycle. I don't do that every day, but that is what suits me really well. I would always say to people, follow the science, follow the evidence in the first instance. And I think Dr. Mindy's got a point when she says don't fast for too long in the week before your period. Yes, most people, if they're doing a 16/8, they probably do push themselves into ketosis. But at the end of the day, we are creatures of feast and fast. We were going for many days, sometimes weeks without food. I know people are going to scoff and say, oh, we've evolved since then. I think it's about being sensible with it. There are times I've pushed my fast for too long, and I know it because I get the most horrible headache right across the front of my head and down the back of my neck, dehydrated, weak, lethargic. So I know when I start to feel any of those symptoms, like stop too long now. I think there has to be evidence out there that reminds people to be sensible about it. But I think you can only be doing yourself benefits as long as you're being sensible.
I'm guessing for your carnivore for the 6 weeks, you were in ketosis pretty much all the time, right? Because you wouldn't have been getting any carbs in to knock you out of it. Would that have been right?
There's differing opinions on what actually knocks you out of ketosis. Some people say a certain number of calories, some people say it's a blood sugar spike. I can only understand that if my blood sugar levels were staying consistent and going with the latter of those two, so the blood sugar that kicks you out in that second instance, yes, I would have been in ketosis pretty much all the time. If you go with the first argument, which is a certain number of calories that kicks you out of ketosis, I definitely wasn't consuming 2,000 calories a day. It was somewhere probably more around the 1,500 mark, but I was still having a decent number of calories. So it's really interesting. And I think it depends on who you listen to, who you speak to. But when I came into fasting, had no idea what ketosis even was. Literally all I knew was it's really good for the gut, because when the gut rests, when the gut is empty, it has time to heal. And that's where, again, toying with it, experimenting with it, trying a few longer fasts, trying a few short periods of time where you're not fasting is the most amazing experiment. I think it all comes back to what's okay for the body. And if you're tuned in, which you and I are, the body will tell you when it's not happy.
So it wasn't really calories that knocked me out. It was definitely carbohydrates, sugars. You can just feel a little switch when the body goes from sugar to ketosis, more alert, but calmer, steady. I like steady because I think if my diet is steady, that communicates and that helps my energy be steady, and then my life is steady, and I quite like peace and steady. I didn't really notice the weight loss. I did notice that my muscle tone come in from eating this way, and what I class is the fluff around the body, like inflammation, that disappeared quite quickly. But in my head we're going, you're not getting enough calories, you'll lose weight, especially if you're only eating once a day some days. Did you notice that the calories would be going down long term? Is there too much emphasis on calories because we look at breads and crisps and chocolates, but actually eating nutrient-dense food? Do you think the body would find a stable balance? And so therefore, if I wasn't getting my 2,000 calories and I was only getting 1,800, that I wouldn't necessarily lose weight over the time and get ill? In a very long-winded question.
It makes complete sense. And I had this thought yesterday because I knew I was only going to eat once. I had a meal out with a friend and it was a decent meal, but I was like, there's no way that's hit my 2,000. I think eating, because there's so much protein, as long as I made sure I had enough fat, so probably fatty meat or fish, long term, yes, it probably is going to result in some weight loss. But I think as the protein stays high, it's not going to result in muscle atrophy or anything like that. And again, because it's happening on a cycle, it's not a major concern. I lost weight and I toned up. I'm going to say that was probably from lack of sugar rather than lack of calories, if I'm completely honest with you. And I'm also a little bit skeptical of the calorie measure because I think it's a very broad brush approach to looking at something which has so much refinement about it, all the different micronutrients, the macronutrients. I find it very unhelpful. I think if someone's really wanting to lose weight or gain weight, that's when calories are important. But for myself, making sure that I'm getting enough protein, healthy fats for me, making sure that if I'm fasting, I'm not being silly about it. I think that's a way of keeping it safe. I know that this has had a really positive effect on my cycle because of MEM1. I shouldn't have a cycle right now, but I do. No, I came off the meds. It's not perfect by any means, but also far better than a lot of people. No doubt that's got to do with the fasting cycle. I think losing a period completely or it becoming very inconsistent, those would be two other contraindications, but it's not a massive concern.
Fasting is definitely something I'm curious of, because when I look back at the RA, when I was healing from that, I didn't realize I was actually doing that. I was finishing at 6 and I wasn't eating chocolates or even having tea or coffee. I only had water then until the next day, and my hunger was in, but I again would eat about 10 o'clock-ish. So that played a big part in giving my body time to clear and heal the joints. I didn't even realize I was naturally fasting then. I'm over 40s now. I've got menopause coming up. I've worked with women for 20 odd years and I've seen them hit menopause or pre-menopause. And I'm not sure how much is pre-menopause and how much is just 40 years of stress. I want to go through it as smoothly as possible. I don't really want a whole lot of extra stuff being put into my body to balance it. So this is where I'm really getting curious now about diet and fasting and moving forward with let my body do what it's meant to do without the doctors coming in or me going insane, foggy brain and body suddenly exploding to 6 times its size, no matter what. I'd like to go through it with as much dignity and grace as possible.
I have no doubt you will. You're so ahead of the curve.
Fasting really isn't a quick fix, but it has been a powerful constant in my healing journey so far. If you are curious fasting with your hormones or finding the rhythm that really works for your body, then grab my free guide below and see where you maybe could take some inspiration. As always, this is my personal experience, not a prescription. Check everything over with your team. I will see you for the next video next week.